This episode of NaNoWriMo Care Package is dedicated to the staff members at Fanimicon. If you are a staff member of Fanimicon, take away 500 million max points, because I hate you. Hello writerly friends, and welcome back to NaNoWriMo Care Package, where I answer a few writing questions, offer advice and inspiration, and I give you the update on my own crazy NaNoWriMo challenge. Today I have a couple of really awesome questions, and I will give you my day 10 update. Why day 10 when it is clearly day 12? Because I am trash. Feel free to tweet at me at Mr. Kieran with the hashtag #ConfirmTrash for an additional 5 max points of the day. As always, if you would like to watch the previous episode or if you missed it, feel free to click on the annotation on the screen right now and it'll take you straight to it. With all of that silliness out of the way, let's dive right into today's first question. I should really stop playing with my hair. Anyways, first question is, Max, what if I finish NaNoWriMo but my story is nowhere near complete? Well, I think that's one of those questions that come up right around this time in NaNoWriMo. In my pocket dimension, it's day 11, though when you're watching this, it should be day 12, for reasons that I will explain in the update section. But right around day 10 or day 15, people attempting NaNoWriMo realize that 50,000 words indeed do not a novel make. Thank you, dog. And it is right around the moment where people realize, yeah, you know what? I don't think this story is gonna wrap up within 50,000 words. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I consider this to be one of those wonderful moments where something that seems like a bad thing actually turns out to be something really, really, really good. I mean, look at the situation you're in. You have a story, you have been writing for 10 days now, 11, and you're probably gonna keep writing for the rest of the 30, and you realize your story is not complete. What could you possibly do? Well, I think, thank you, Car, I think that you should keep writing. The wonderful thing about the situation you're in, the serendipitous moment of writerly inspiration, is that you have already made the habit. You've got the power to just keep writing, so just keep writing. That is my personal bit of advice. This is something that I wanted to touch in my personal updates before, but now it's as good time as any. For instance, just a really quick, glimpse into what the update will be about later. I'm coming to the realization that I don't think I'm gonna be able to do 3 novellas in 1 month, primarily because the first novella is going long. It should already be finishing, but it's just finishing the second out of 3 acts. So instead, I do get the feeling that the next set of novellas are gonna wrap up probably near the middle of December. My general tip and my general advice is that you should always be writing something, regardless. When you're not editing, you should be writing. So I do feel that, if you're writing your book and you realize, hey, 50,000 words, 30 days, that's not gonna do it. Well then, keep writing. I think, and I find that a lot of my writerly friends agree, that the habit to write is the hardest thing to regain. And take it from me, who, as I mentioned before, I had to take a couple of months of writing to revise a book, publish a book, and start this crazy video series of mine. So I had to step away from writing, and it's hard getting back into things. Give me a second. I know it may not seem like a lot when you're in the middle of writing an enormous behemoth of a novel, but you realize the moment you stop writing and you want to get back into things that it is very hard. I personally, from the bottom of my heart, recommend you to keep writing. As I've mentioned in the past, starting a novel, especially in the month of NaNoWriMo, can seem incredibly daunting because it's this pile of words, this enormous behemoth of a novel that is just staring down at you, and you kind of have to start poking at it, chopping out little chunks and taking them out one by one. I don't know what sort of mythological creature I'm picturing anymore, but you get the idea. So I do find that the more you write and the more chunks you take out of this enormous monster, the easier it becomes. And if by the end of the month you're only halfway, I mean, a lot of books are 100,000 words long, then you are halfway. That's the halfway mark. It's awesome. It's amazing. And if it takes you another month, then do it. It doesn't matter. As I've mentioned, NaNoWriMo has nothing to do with finishing the novel or the 50,000 arbitrary word limit or word count. It's ultimately about making the habit. And if you've already made the habit, that's like mastering the ability to create magic with your fingertips. You have the powers now. So go and write. So yes, in summary, if you do realize that your novel is not going to be complete, I actually recommend you to keep writing. I don't really like the idea of taking a break, primarily because you're only gonna make it harder to get back into writing. And I mean, as they say, strike the iron while it's hot. Well, it's been hot for over a month and it's gonna stay hot as long as you keep writing. So there you go. That's all I have to say about that. Good luck, and I wish you the best in your writing adventures through November and beyond. This next one is a really good one that it has a little bit to do with NaNoWriMo, but it is mostly a general writing question, and that's why I like it. This is a sort of question that I've tackled a lot of times, but it keeps coming back because it's kind of a universal question. Everyone deals with this at some point. Just like I mentioned in the previous video that every writer has to come to terms with not editing as they go. Or I mean most writers, I'm not trying to make a general rule. We're all different ridiculous creatures. The creatures I've met, though, come to terms with that. Just like that, most writers have to come to terms with this. Max, what do you recommend about writing things that you may not be comfortable with because people you know will be able to read them? And of course, one is to assume that this question revolves around things like, let's say, you don't want your grandma to realize that you have written an incredibly sexual or violent or just incredibly colorful piece of writing. And what do I recommend about that? Well, there's a little something that I've been repeating for years, and I'm going to repeat it again because it's a good piece of advice. And once again, a piece of advice that you can file under life advice. You have zero control over how people will react to your writing. No, really, I mean it. We as writers, or really as people creating content in the world, you have absolutely no ability to control the way people will react to it. Yes, you can do little changes to stir their reactions one way or another, but that doesn't actually guarantee you that they will do that. What does that have to do with this question, though? Well, I do feel that the story is always right. And if the story demands that you write something uncomfortable, like a very violent scene, or a scene with a very dark or bitter or cruel scene, then you must write that story. Simple as that. We don't choose the stories we write, we just kind of stumble upon them and we are chosen to write them. Simple as that. Now, as for what your parents or your grandma or what the ladies at the crochet club may think, this is like the third time that I've made fun of people who are part of a crochet club. I actually don't mean anything against the crochet club. Am I even pronouncing it right? Because there's like crochet and croquette and they're not the same thing at all. So you can be safe in knowing that I don't actually dislike crochet. I think crochet is really cute. I just like saying the word crochet. Crochet? Croquet? Crochet? So what I'm trying to say is that you really have no control over how they will react. I mean, yeah, sure, you can think, you may be entirely certain from your point of view that your parents will disapprove of you writing this incredibly violent story. And first off, that doesn't guarantee that one, they're gonna read it, and two, that they will feel that way. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or condescending, but I do kind of feel that most people who can pick up a book can realize that the person writing them is entirely unrelated to the contents of the book, right? I mean, like, does anybody actually think that J.K. Rowling is a witch? No. Or that she's into mysticism or the arcane? No, she just wrote a book that happened to be about wizards. Stephen King is actually like the sweetest person in the world, and just so happened to have made a career for himself out of writing horrible, cruel, and extremely selfish people. So, just like you are probably writing about a subject that may seem uncomfortable to you, doesn't necessarily mean that you revel in that, or that it somehow reflects your own beliefs or your opinion on certain things. I don't know, I just feel like people who read books kind of acknowledge that to be true. I think that's what the whole concept of the creative license is about. So, personally, I know that this is not exactly the answer you were looking for. I mean, because you could easily just not write about those things, but I find that stories test us. Stories push us to create the things that we would not have created otherwise. So, sorry for the car. For the time being, I don't know how old you are, the particular person who asked this question, but I would like to urge you to write those stories. Write them regardless of how uncomfortable they may seem, because those are the things that ultimately test you. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that I learn over time that we don't always write happy stories, or stories where there's justice, ultimate justice, and fairness, and that's okay. Not all stories are happy stories, and not all stories are fair. Not all characters get the chance to have their payback. Most do, but not all do, and that's okay. The stories are like life, in which that it is entirely random and we have no control over it. As for what your parents may say, I would like to think that maybe they would realize, hey, you wrote this story, but it's independent of you. Hopefully, probably not. Parents are weird. I would also recommend maybe not sharing it with your parents, but then again, I am not in your shoes, I don't know the life you're leading, and I probably can't give you correct life advice without exactly knowing your scenario. Personally, though, I am against the idea of just censoring a story because of what people will think of you. I ultimately feel that we as writers, and the writing world in general, benefits when we are pushed beyond our boundaries and we create the stories that scare us, the stories that we are unsure of ourselves. So, there's that. Again, it's probably not the most meaningful piece of life advice, but it is a little piece of life advice. We don't get to choose the stories we write, they choose us, and we must write them regardless. These stories may be cruel, may be sad, may be tragic, may be bitter, but it is our job to see them through, because that will only make us better writers down the road. I hope that helps. I hope it will, if anything, give you a little courage to just keep writing. And those are the questions for today. I'm planning to make these videos a little shorter because I do realize that 40 minutes is a little bit too long. Also, I want to make them more regularly. I know that I've been missing on videos, and I will explain what happened in the last week in a moment. Before that, though, I just want to apologize for the lack of videos. Again, I had a bit of a crazy week and last couple of days, so I had very little control over my surroundings. Again, sorry. Thank you for your patience, and I will try my best to have more videos go up for the remainder of NaNoWriMo. And now let me just pull out my word counts for the last couple of days. Well, actually, for like the last week. When did I give my last update? It was like almost like a week ago. Again, sorry about that. So, what the heck happened, Max? Where were you last Friday? And last Monday? Well, a couple of things happened. As I mentioned in my previous update, Thursdays are kind of a problem for me because I'm out of the office and I have very limited time to write. I have like half the regular time I have for writing. And I'm writing out in the public, out in a coffee shop, so it's a different scenario. I am generally able to write. I was able to write some last Thursday, but the day just kind of, fell through my fingers like sand, so I had very little control over it. Then on Friday, my workload was ridiculous. I finished work at like 7, and then I had to go on and write, and then pretty much like Monday, which is yesterday in this dimension that I'm recording this video on, I was like, it's 10 at night. I don't think it is wise for me to be recording a vlog where I've basically been working for the last... well, not 12 hours, but approximately 12 hours, I know you like to see me tired, but that's a little excessive. If you actually enjoy watching me do, like, tired vlogs, like, leave a comment and I'll give you plus 10 max points because you are a cruel person and at least you are honest enough to admit it. Honesty is very important and I value it greatly. Regardless of that, what happened after Friday? Because I basically missed 2 days. I missed Friday and then I missed Saturday because I was out and about dealing with family business, and then I had to makes it sound like I work for a gang, like it's like the mafia. It's the racially indistinct mafia. It sounds incredibly boring. Isn't mafia like specifically like Italian? Now I feel really embarrassed. I'm probably gonna cut this. And I also had to do things for the blog, like the prompts that go up. The prompts that go up every day, I actually make them in advance. So I had to like sit down and make them all. Although I do feel that this week's theme was actually really good. I think you can piece together what the theme for this week is in regard to the prompts. Regardless of that, on Sunday, if you were following me on Twitter, you probably heard about my ridiculous extra long writing session, in which I was able to mildly catch up. I'm behind on my regular word count, though of course for the NaNoWriMo word count I'm still ahead because I'm a monster. Yeah, it's just like complaints. I should just like give you my word count, but I won't because I'm evil. And then after Sunday, we had Monday, in which the most despair-inducing event of all of human history happened. Hotel registration open for Fanimicon. Fanimicon is Fanimicon. It's an anime and nerd convention that happens every year in San Jose, California, on Labor Day weekend? ? So yeah, the registration for the hotel opened like 6 months in advance because the Fanime staff are awful people. Actually, not the staff, it's probably just the people in charge, who are incredibly awful people. If you are a member of the leading staff for the Fanimicon convention, take away another 5,100,000 points. I hate you, and you, Mr. Fanime. So, if you saw a couple of my tweets, I actually stopped tweeting because I was angry and sad and just really tired because I was basically on the phone for 3 hours trying to book a room for me and my friend, and it's funny because I was joking. People were, I was chatting with people on Twitter because, I'm refreshing pages on one screen, and then on the other screen I'm just like reading the Fanime tag on Twitter, just seeing everyone else be as angry as me. And they were like, "Oh, dude, just go through the phone." And I laughed, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's beat these other dead whores." Of course, irony, as would have it, I ended up actually getting through the phone. So that's my tip for next year. I'm just gonna be on the phone from the moment the freaking machines open up. I was able to get a room. Yay! When I was done, I was literally so done that I was like, I'm not even going to Fanime. I'm just going to be angry. But it's 6 months away. I will get over it. Though, if you want a mental image for how I felt for those 3 hours, I have a clip just for you. That's pretty much how I felt the whole time. I was Dio Brando in Phantom Blood, just wishing to kill the entire universe and turn everyone into vampires. That's basically how I felt. Can that be like an option? It's like current mood, Dio Brando. That's like the first and only time you're gonna hear me say that. I'm really bad. If you have any idea what the hell I'm referencing, give yourself 15 max points, because you're a nerd. So that's what happened this last week. I basically lost, well, I was able to write eventually on Monday, but I was unable to record a video. I think a couple of you saw my tweets. It was 10 at night, and I'm like, no, I will not, never give up, never surrender. I'm going to record a vlog at 10 at night. I am in the point of, I was like in the state of tirelessness where you're not tired anymore. You don't fear anything. You don't feel tired, and you're just like, I can see the future. I can taste the fabric of the universe. I'm going to make a vlog, and then I'm going to run a mile. And I turned on the camera, and I spoke, and then a car alarm went out across the street, and it went on for like 10 minutes. And I took that as a divine sign that I should probably just go to bed. And I did. And I woke up and I took care of a couple of things, and I'm here now, giving you the vlog in a better state of mind, although my regular silliness is as it always has been. So, with that very lengthy explanation as to what happened this last week, why I was not around, and why my word count hurt, let's actually talk about my word count. So, if cars could stop driving by, cars are like my worst enemies. It's like making vlogs. Well, man, my dog's just dumb though. But making vlogs has made me hate cars driving across the street. And it's funny because, like, when I'm not recording, I don't notice them. It's kind of like, you know, just put on my music and I go on with my life. But as soon as I turn on the camera, they just start dying and exploding and turning into giant robots and battling across my street. Transformers, more like take a transatlantic cruise outta here. If you actually thought that was funny, take away 5 max points. Thankfully, there's always coffee. If you are watching this video in the company of a nice cup of coffee or tea, give yourself 20 max points, because coffee is black elixir and it is the cure for all ailments, and it is just wonderful. Oh yeah, my word count. Anyways, for my word count for the last 3 days, which happened to be the 3 days where I did an update, are as follows. On the 6th, on my awful Thursday, I wrote 1,501 word. On the 9th, which is the crazy Sunday in which I did a double session, I wrote... That car is groaning about that awful joke I made. I wrote 5,808 words. And yesterday, in my time frame, in my time dimension, last Monday, after my incredibly ridiculous Phantom misadventures, I wrote 3,078 words, bringing us out to a total of 27,726. 27 is kind of like my lucky number, so could I get like a Final Fantasy victory theme for a moment? It's pretty good, right? No, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Now that we're done with the word count, I can actually start talking about my incredibly silly writing experience. So, as I mentioned before, I missed a couple of days, and for most people attempting NaNoWriMo, missing a couple of days is kind of like the sign that things are gonna go wrong, and I absolutely disagree with that. Life gets in the way. Life is really good at getting in the way of writing and in the way of basically anything artistic. So it's entirely normal for, you know, you having to spend Saturday buying groceries and dealing with work, and then I missed my own finger, and having to, you know, get home really late, and you realize, you know, I can trade away 3 hours of sleeping for writing, and I should probably just go to sleeping instead. So that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think the best show of one's will and writing spirit is to simply get back into things as soon as you're able to. Ironically, Sunday, the day where I had like a double writing session, was actually really comfortable for me because I had taken care of everything I needed to take care of. So I just sat down, wrote, drank coffee, had a couple snacks, and then I was just done for the whole day. And I was able to finally, for the first time in like weeks, take time off, play video games, relax, go to bed early, and then wake up on Monday and repeat the cycle once again. So, although life can get in the way, I would like to urge you to fight back and return to writing. I missed 2 days, and I'm the crazy monster of a writer, so you too can overcome a couple of missed days. Life gets in the way, but don't allow it to get in the way of your writing. That little speech out of the way. These last couple of days have been a little funny, especially yesterday. Well, yesterday and Sunday. If you are at all, I mean, if you have been following me on Twitter, you have heard my silliness. But of course, you know, this is what the update is for. On Sunday, I wrote a chapter, and it was one of those ridiculous, like, serendipitous moments in which I realized that my outline was wrong, and a character who I thought was one race turned out to be another entirely different race, and the joke that I had prepared for the introduction of this character didn't matter at all. Just to clarify, it was a play on words joke. It wasn't like a racial joke. Just clarifying, I'm a play on words kind of guy. I guess I can actually tell you the joke because it's never gonna make it into the book. I was going to introduce a character who would introduce themselves as being from Georgia, and the main character, girl who is kind of silly and doesn't think before speaking, would say something along the lines of, "Oh, Georgia, I have a friend from Atlanta." And at which point, this character that I'm introducing would just kind of like turn her head to one side and say that she was from Georgia, the country, not Georgia, the state. And that was kind of the basis of that entire joke. That was it. I felt really clever and silly. That was basically it. I am not above the idea of writing an entire character for the purpose of making a single joke. Do not question that. I will do it. I have no shame. Hashtag no shame. Silliness aside, when I started writing her, from the moment she showed up on the page, or rather the scene, I knew she was not the person I thought she originally was. This character was indeed in another castle, or in another dimension, because she was entirely different. I don't want to go into too much detail per se, but I will add on to this with the other thing that I'm going to mention, but it was one of those moments in which I realized, as always, that the outline was wrong. I like to think of the outline as, you know that moment when you go to meet somebody and you're coming in with expectations of who they are and what they do and the sort of person that they are based on what you've heard of them, and then you actually meet them and you realize, oh wow, either A, wow, you're exactly like I thought you would be, or B, wow, you're an entirely different person, and all these rumors were actually entirely unbased. That's the way I like to consider my outline. I know that some writers believe their outline is kind of like the Bible of their story, the very deep and most important and unique core of the story from which everything else in the canon relates to. And I don't feel like that. To me, the outline is a fluid sort of substance, and it can change as the story advances, and I, as I mentioned, tend to just set it on fire around 2/3 into the story because everything has gone to hell. And in this story, everything has gone to hell. The other point that I wanted to mention is that I wanted to introduce 3 characters into the story, aside from Girl being the protagonist, and 3 supporting characters who would be her companions throughout the story. I introduced one. I love her. She's amazing. I introduced the character who changed race, who is also amazing and awesome, and surprised me because she had an entirely different personality. And there was a 3rd character, and this character is nowhere to be found. I keep stopping and thinking, okay, what's gonna happen in this next scene? What should happen in this next scene? What am I gonna write about? And she's just nowhere to be seen. And it's a sort of thing where I'm coming around the idea that she's just not a character in the story at all. And it's weird. You know, it's weird because I wrote the outline and I thought, well, clearly there's this character and this character and this character has to be here as well. And she's nowhere to be found. I am 2/3 through the book and she's nowhere to be seen. She's not the antagonist, clearly, because I already know her and she's a blast to write, so I don't know what happened to that character. She's just kind of disappeared, maybe? I like to think that it's always me as the person making the outline who turned out to be wrong, you know? And that's okay. Ultimately, it's kind of funny because I do have 3 supporting characters, because one character who I thought was going to be in the background just ended up taking the spotlight, and she is funny, and she is kind of a ridiculous character, which is kind of like a requirement to be a member of the main cast in my ridiculous plays. So ultimately, it turned out to have what I just needed. 3 supporting characters, girl in the center, and rows upon rows of baddies that they're gonna beat up into pulps. So, I don't know, I wanted to just share that with you. Maybe as a little bit of a reminder that the outline is by no means perfect, and seldom correct. Outlines are funny, and I try to not take them very seriously. And I think that's all I have to say for today's ridiculous update. I will be making another video very soon. I think I'm going to shoot it tomorrow, compiling the update from today and tomorrow in my time frame, in my little pocket dimension. So there will be an update very soon, and I plan to shoot another one on Friday to go up on Saturday. So you're gonna have more of these videos coming soon. There may be a little bit shorter, like 20 minutes, depends, but there will be more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and leaving comments. I love reading your comments. I may not get a chance to reply to all of them because I'm very busy, but I do enjoy seeing your words and your thoughts and what you have to say. It means a lot to me. With all of that said, I just want to thank you for watching again. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give a like and subscribe if you want more. If you would like even more writing advice and ridiculousness and silliness and the occasional display of my face on various definitions, you should follow my writing blog over at maxkieran.tumblr.com. I post there every day. I have tons of prompts, writing inspiration, character questions, advice, and more. There's just tons of it there. With all of that said, NaNoWriMo is not about the word count. It's not about making that arbitrary word count at the end of the day. It's ultimately about making the time and creating the habit to write. And if you miss a day, if you miss 2 days, like this loser over here, it doesn't matter, because you're gonna get back into things, okay? With all of that said, I want to wish you the best of luck, and until the time we meet again, which will be very soon. Mwah! Well, like, the episode's done and I don't have anything for the back end of the episode, so, can we just, like, play that clip of Dio one more time?